Hey everybody, this is Zach. I thought I'd do a quick video on recording a choral texture for a piece of music. Um, this isn't like for a very specific lyrical choir. Not something that you want to have like discernible, words that you can pick out. This is just like an ambient sort of pad almost. And the TLDW version of this, the too long didn't watch, you re-record yourself over and over and over again. There are a few videos about this online, but I have kind of my own sort of technique on how I do it. And this is a very kind of specific direction that I wanted to go. So I thought I'd do a quick video, kind of show how I do it here in Nuendo. Obviously, Cubase users are going to find this very familiar to this interface. But I mean, the technique is kind of universal. You can do this in any DAW or whatever. This is also just like a technique that I use sometimes in just like sound design in general, not necessarily with music, just using my voice and doing a lot of layers and different textures to kind of create ambient beds or interesting sort of atmospheres and that kind of thing. So okay, let's kind of get started here, and I'll stutter over my words all over the place because I'm an idiot. All right, so here we go. We have a marker track up here, and you can kind of see that I have the chord progression for the choir set up here. Let me actually just collapse this and unsolo that. And I should probably turn down the piano because it's going to tear our heads off whenever I hit play, I think. So I'm going to look at all these tracks, all these colors. I'm colorblind, so I have no idea what these colors actually are, but I can see a difference in some of them, so that's kind of cool. Okay, contact. I'm going to do you, and I'm just going to drop you temporarily, just so we can hear the piano chord progression. And this is another thing I'll do is turn off all the effects so it doesn't blast us out. You could kind of see at the beginning of the video for this particular bus, I'm using Sound Particles Air. This gives you a nice new update available. This gives a nice distance, so you can kind of resituate your source in kind of like whatever spectrum, whatever world you're kind of creating. So it's a nice little thing to be able to blend your material how you kind of want. Just got some nectar here, kind of do a little evening pass, and some uhbik-d. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's just for some delay. And then you have some VSS3. I love this reverb module. It's one of my favorites. It's great for music. It's great for sound design. Just across the board. Highly recommend that one. It's really great. Okay, so that's all disabled. Minimize. Okay, so here is the chord progression for the choir itself. Yada yada yada. So it's G major, just kind of sitting around that world a little bit. Just a 3-part business here. The mid is super boring. Look at all that. Look at all that. Same note. Just ride that D, yo. Okay, so if we have the choir here, I should probably turn contact back up. Wait, what am I talking about? This is all audio. What do I care? What do I care what contact is right now? Okay, so let's solo the choir. And you can tell I have a few more than just a 3-part. I have a layer of female vox just to kind of give some high range texture. I might actually check in with a few of my female vocalist friends and see if they want to record a couple couple of textures for it as well, just to kind of humanize the performance a little bit more. Because right now it's, while the direction was to be pretty textural and patty, I still like to have sort of a real source as a solo that I can kind of manipulate in there a little bit. But anyway, we have high, mid, and low of the male choir, and then I did an additional melodic sort of passage at the end just to kind of give it a little more life and a little bit more personality, to kind of like gel it all together. So, and let's see, let's go start with the low. We have all of the effects disabled, so this is probably going to sound pretty weird. I have what I ended up doing was I recorded about 8 times. I think I did like probably 10, 15, and then just remove some of them because it just started to get pretty mushy. But I do different performances for each one of these. I alternate octaves. So I have like 3 or 4 that are kind of high octave, and then the rest that are kind of a lower octave, and then I kind of manipulate the texture of my voice a little bit more while I'm performing, to kind of just give just some difference and personality to the whole thing. I'll also, like, there are some notes that I hold longer than others, just to kind of like minimize the quote unquote perfection of the choir, but this is far from perfect choir, as you will hear. Down here in this window, you can see in your window we have Vera Audio, which is basically their factory version of Melodyne or Autotune or something like that. And with this, I tend to have quite a bit of a vibrato in my singing voice, and I wanted to clamp some of that stuff down. So you can kind of, here, let me just play a little bit of this passage. You can kind of hear like some sample jumping that's happening right there. And the reason why we're hearing that is that I'm quantizing these pitches kind of aggressively on some of this stuff. Again, it kind of like goes back to that directive of I wanted it to feel sort of like a sample library, but just with a little human component to it as well. And you can see here, with this modulation, you can kind of see the line here in each one of these little clips, and that's my voice modulating with vibrato. And you can take these clips, and really, really clamp them down. So that's like 0 vibrato. It's going to probably sound pretty weird. Yeah, so you can kind of hear that modulation kind of clamp down a little bit more. What's cool about Vera Audio is, like, if you do have a whole bunch of these recordings and you want to continue to mess around with the texture of each individual track, you can move, you can putter around with like the formants. So you can, so it just gives you like a little bit more variability to make, each individual voice feel a little bit different. So yeah, you can kind of hear some of the differences here. Yeah, so like this is what that I had a good time with that. I just wanted to put a whole bunch of aggressive texture on one track, so it kind of would round out the low end for everything. And since all this stuff is piping through so much delay and reverb, you don't really hear these imperfections at all. It all just kind of like gels together and becomes this nice bed. But just for posterity's sake, you can just kind of see how each one of these are situated. And I'm panning them around. I don't really have a method in my madness on how I'm actually doing the panning. I'm basically just taking some similar sounding pieces and kind of panning to those. So like I'll take like the rough texture. If I have 2 rough textures, I'll take those and kind of pan one left by about 30%, the other one about 30%, just kind of keep them even. And then I might take one of the higher registers and pan those more aggressively on each side, just to kind of like zone things down, and allow there to be a wider kind of spectrum based off of the frequency range of the content, if that makes sense. I don't really have a solid philosophy on it. I just kind of follow my ear on it and kind of go like, I like the sound of that. I'll do that. So that's kind of the low. Yeah, this is one that I really wanted to make sound like a library. So you can kind of hear that airiness, and I'm really quantizing that pitch down pretty hard. So it definitely sounds like an old sort of 90s choir synth in some ways. But it's all about like creating character and color with these kind of recordings. Okay, so here we have the mid. This is the one that has the really kind of boring kind of progression, but it's sort of the anchor for let's see, do I have something else? Okay, yeah, it's just all the mids. And you can hear that like I'm also changing like what vowel I'm sort of writing as I perform. Like there are times that I'm doing like kind of some I'm doing O's, some I'm doing ahs. I just kind of wanted to get a big sort of collection of stuff. So to the ear, you can't really tell what the singers, quote unquote, are singing, like what they're doing. It's just constant moving. It's evolving texture throughout the whole thing. Yeah, so that's the mid, and then the high. And again, like high, all of these are relative, right? Like they each have a high and a low octave performance. Like each one of these sections, I'm doing 2 octaves, but this is high on the chord progression, basically. So this is the high note. Yeah, I can hear kind of like that pitch quantization happening pretty aggressively there. Yeah, so you can kind of hear how all that's working together. Let me just minimize that. And the female Vox library, that is using Vocalese. Let me just open up Contact, and I'll show you what that's set up to be. Yoink. Okay, so it's these two, and yeah, I think I'm just doing, just basic ms and ahs. So nothing too dramatic. It's pretty straightforward. And here, I'll just play that. Where are you? Okay, got that there. Oh, and this is when I think, we need to pop it back up to 0. So just like, it's almost like a string, kind of string texture for it all. And then to kind of round everything out, I did a melodic sort of take for everything. Just again, I mentioned earlier, it's just something to kind of give it a little bit more personality and get away from just the straight chord progression, even though like this is still a very chordal sort of phrase. I wanted to give just some variability to it. There's not a ton of runs or anything like that happening, but here. So yeah, I mean, it's just like with the without the effects, it's everything sounds pretty harsh and everything because I'm recording it really dry and really close mic. But whenever I add all of the effects in, let's see here, where are my effects? Yeah, here we go. We'll put air on, we'll put nectar and that in, and then let's just solo the choir, and then So that's how I do like a weird little choir texture thingy. That's about it. How do I turn this off? Yeah. Okay. I'll see you on the next round. Bye.